When historians describe the infrastructure of 19th century cities, they usually focus on the gradual development of utilities, gas lines, water mains, and eventually electrical grids built piece by piece over decades. But the real story, the one that barely appears in municipal archives, the one that even today sits buried beneath the foundations of America's oldest cities, began with a machine so massive, so sophisticated, so impossible to explain within the official timeline that it had to be dismantled and erased from history. A machine the size of a stadium, sitting at the center of every major Tartarian city, pumping heated water through a network of pipes that reached every building, every home, every structure in the urban grid, providing heat, hot water, and power to entire populations for free. In 1891, a construction crew in Chicago was excavating for a new sewer line when they broke through into a chamber that dwarfed anything they had seen. The chamber was circular, over 800 feet in diameter. The ceiling rose 200 feet above the floor, and in the center stood a machine that filled the space like a mechanical cathedral. Massive cylindrical tanks arranged in concentric rings, pipes extending outward in every direction, thousands of them, ranging from 6 inches to 12 feet in diameter. Control panels covered in instruments and gauges, catwalks and ladders connecting different levels of the apparatus. The machine was cold, silent, long dormant, but the infrastructure was intact, and the pipes, the thousands of pipes radiating outward from this central hub, extended beneath the streets of Chicago in every direction, connecting to every building in the city. The foreman, a man named Heinrich Weber, documented what he found in a report to the city engineer. "We have discovered an underground facility of extraordinary scale. The central apparatus appears to be a heating or power generation system of a type unknown to me. The pipe network extends throughout the excavation zone and presumably beyond. This infrastructure predates any municipal utility system of which I am aware. I recommend immediate investigation by qualified engineers before any further construction proceeds." Weber's report was received, and then it disappeared. The excavation was halted. The chamber was sealed with concrete. The sewer line was rerouted. No investigation occurred. No engineers examined the machine. No public announcement was made. The central water heater of Chicago was buried, just as it had been buried in every other city where such machines were discovered. The Chicago discovery wasn't unique. As researchers have examined construction records, excavation reports, and worker testimonies from the late 19th and early 20th centuries, a pattern has emerged. City after city encountered massive underground heating infrastructure during construction projects. Infrastructure that predated the cities themselves. Infrastructure that was systematically sealed, destroyed, or repurposed without acknowledgement. The central water heaters were everywhere, and they were all buried. The scale of these machines defies the official construction narrative. The Chicago facility, 800 feet in diameter, 200 feet tall, would have required excavation of over 100 million cubic feet of earth, fabrication of millions of pounds of metal components, installation of thousands of miles of pipe, engineering expertise that supposedly didn't exist, all of this underground, in secret, leaving no historical record. The official history says Chicago was a frontier town until the 1830s, a small settlement that grew into a city after the railroads arrived. But beneath Chicago sat a machine that would challenge modern engineering, a machine that was already old when the first settlers arrived, a machine that had been heating a city that officially didn't exist yet. The pipe networks prove the system's extent. When buildings in old American cities are renovated or demolished, workers frequently encounter unexplained pipe infrastructure, pipes that don't connect to any known utility system, pipes made of materials that don't match any recorded municipal installation, pipes that run between buildings in patterns that suggest district-wide distribution. In Boston, renovation of buildings in the Back Bay has revealed pipe networks beneath the basements, networks that extend to neighboring structures and beyond. In Philadelphia, subway construction encountered abandoned utility infrastructure that predated the official water system by decades. In St. Louis, building demolition has exposed massive pipes, some over 8 feet in diameter, running beneath city blocks with no documented origin. The pipes are the fingerprints of the central water heaters. They prove that a distribution system existed, a system that reached every building, a system that someone went to great lengths to hide. The technology of the central water heaters was sophisticated beyond anything the 19th century officially possessed. Based on the Chicago description and similar accounts from other cities, these machines featured multiple pressure vessels arranged in concentric rings, suggesting a staged heating process that maximized efficiency, distribution manifolds capable of routing heated water to thousands of individual connections, a control problem that would challenge modern computer systems, thermal storage systems that could maintain temperature across an entire city grid, technology we're only now developing for modern district heating, apparent self-regulation. The machines required minimal human intervention once operational. And most mysteriously, no obvious fuel source, no coal bunkers, no gas connections, no wood storage, no evidence of combustion. The machines generated heat. But from what source, the witnesses couldn't determine. The energy source is the key mystery. Modern district heating systems burn fuel, natural gas, coal, biomass. The heat comes from combustion. The central water heaters showed no evidence of combustion, no smokestacks extending to the surface, no ash disposal systems, no fuel delivery infrastructure. The machines sat in sealed chambers, disconnected from any conventional energy supply. Yet they heated entire cities. Some researchers believe the machines tapped into geothermal energy, heat from the earth itself. The deep chambers would have provided access to elevated temperatures. But geothermal systems require heat exchangers, circulation pumps, and other infrastructure the witnesses didn't describe. Other researchers suggest electromagnetic heating, conversion of electrical or magnetic energy to thermal energy. This would explain the absence of combustion. But it raises the question of where the electromagnetic energy came from. The most radical hypothesis is that the central water heaters were part of a Tartarian energy grid, a network of power generation and distribution that operated on principles we've forgotten, principles that provided unlimited energy without fuel, principles that were deliberately suppressed when the old order was replaced. Before we go deeper into these findings, before we analyze the distribution networks, the building connections, the dismantling operations, and the deeper questions about who built these machines and why they were hidden, if you're interested in these kinds of investigations, make sure you're subscribed. It helps support the research and lets me continue these long-form deep dives. Thank you. Now, as we move into the next section, we'll examine how the central water heaters connected to individual buildings and what that reveals about Tartarian urban planning. Every building was connected. This is the most striking aspect of the system. Not just wealthy homes, not just public buildings, not just commercial structures. Every building, worker housing, tenements, workshops, warehouses. The pipe networks extended to all of them. This suggests a fundamentally different approach to infrastructure. Modern utilities are rationed by ability to pay. You get heat if you can afford the gas bill. You get water if you pay the water company. The Tartarian system appears to have been universal, built into the city itself, available to everyone. The pipes weren't added after buildings were constructed. The buildings were constructed around the pipes. The entire urban grid was designed as an integrated system. The central water heater at the core, the pipe network as the circulatory system, the buildings as organs receiving the flow. A city conceived as a single organism, providing for all its inhabitants equally. The building connections show sophisticated engineering. In surviving old buildings, researchers have documented vertical risers extending from basement pipe connections to upper floors, distribution manifolds that allowed individual room control, radiator mounting points in walls and floors, often now covered or repurposed. return lines that circulated cooled water back to the central system, pressure regulation equipment at building entry points. This wasn't primitive technology. It was a complete hydronic heating system, more sophisticated than many modern installations, designed and built on a city-wide scale, before the technology to create it supposedly existed. The radiators reveal what was lost. In some old buildings, the original radiators remain. They're often described as decorative or ornamental, cast iron units with elaborate designs. But they're not just decorative, they're engineered. The fin patterns maximize heat transfer. The proportions match the rooms they were designed to heat. The connection points align with the pipe networks beneath. These radiators were part of the system, connected to the central water heaters, providing even comfortable heat to every room. When the central systems were dismantled, the radiators became useless. They were converted to steam heat where boilers were installed, or they were removed entirely, replaced with modern systems. But some remain. Silent witnesses to the system that once served them, cold monuments to the infrastructure that was taken away. The dismantling operations were systematic. The central water heaters weren't just abandoned, they were actively destroyed. In city after city, the same pattern appears. Discovery during construction or excavation, immediate halt to work, arrival of outside personnel, not local workers, rapid dismantling of machinery, removal of key components, sealing of the chamber with concrete or rubble, falsification of records to show nothing was found. The dismantling required coordination, specialized personnel who knew what they were dealing with, transportation to remove massive components, materials to seal chambers, authority to override local officials, a network operating above city governments, implementing a policy of systematic erasure. The timing correlates with utility privatization. The central water heaters were dismantled during the same period when private utility companies were being established. Gas companies, water companies, eventually electric companies, companies that charged for services that had previously been free, companies owned by the banking families and industrial combines that were consolidating control of the American economy. The central water heaters were competition. They provided free heat to entire populations. They eliminated the need for individual fuel purchases. They made the utility business model impossible. They had to be destroyed, not because they didn't work, because they worked too well, because they provided abundance instead of scarcity, because they couldn't be metered and monetized. The boiler replacement program followed the dismantling. Once the central water heaters were destroyed, buildings needed alternative heat sources. The solution was individual boilers, coal-fired initially, later oil and gas. Every building required its own heating plant. Every building required fuel deliveries. Every building owner became a customer of the fuel companies. The transition was presented as progress. Modern heating, efficient heating, individual heating. But it was actually regression, from a system that heated everyone from a central source, to a system that required everyone to purchase their own fuel, from abundance to scarcity, from free to expensive, from Tartarian provision to industrial extraction. The steam heat systems that replaced the water heaters were inferior. Steam heat, which became common in the late 1800s and early 1900s, has significant disadvantages compared to hot water. Steam systems operate at higher pressures, requiring stronger pipes and more maintenance. Steam systems can't be easily regulated. They're either on or off, leading to overheating. Steam systems lose more energy through pipe radiation. Steam systems require more complex controls. Hot water systems, like those connected to the central water heaters, are superior in almost every way. Lower pressure, better control, higher efficiency, less maintenance. Why did cities switch from superior hot water to inferior steam? Because hot water required the central system, and the central system had to be destroyed. Steam could be generated by individual boilers in individual buildings. It allowed the fragmentation of the heating infrastructure. It enabled the extraction economy that replaced Tartarian provision. The technical regression was deliberate. It served an economic purpose. It transferred wealth from populations to fuel companies. The evidence remains in the pipe networks. Beneath old American cities, the pipes are still there. The central water heaters were dismantled, but the pipe networks were too extensive to remove entirely. They were cut and capped, abandoned in place, buried beneath newer infrastructure. Construction workers still encounter them. Massive pipes running between buildings, connections that don't match any utility record, infrastructure that predates the official city history. The pipes are evidence of a system that once served entire populations, evidence of technology that was suppressed, evidence of provision that was replaced by extraction. The central chambers may still exist. The machines were dismantled, but the chambers that housed them were often too large to fill completely. Concrete caps and rubble fills, but the spaces beneath may remain partially intact. In Chicago, the 800-foot diameter chamber would have required thousands of tons of fill to completely eliminate. It's more likely that the entrances were sealed, the machine removed, but the chamber itself left largely empty. A massive void beneath the city, mapped on no public record, accessible through no known entrance, but still there, waiting to be rediscovered. The World's Fairs showcased what was being destroyed. The Great World's Fairs of the late 1800s, Chicago 1893, St. Louis 1904, and others, featured elaborate demonstration cities. White cities with thousands of buildings, fully heated, fully lit, fully functional, constructed in months. The official explanation is that these were temporary exhibition structures, but the scale doesn't match temporary construction. The infrastructure doesn't match what could be installed in months. The capabilities don't match the technology supposedly available. Researchers believe the World's Fairs were Tartarian cities, pre-existing infrastructure that was discovered and briefly showcased, then demolished after the fairs ended. The heating systems at these fairs were notably advanced. Central generation, district distribution, universal coverage, exactly what the central water heaters provided. The fairs showed the public what Tartarian technology could do, then destroyed the evidence, demonstrating capability, then ensuring it couldn't be replicated. The ghost infrastructure appears in insurance maps. Sanborn fire insurance maps from the late 1800s show building footprints and construction details. Some of these maps show pipe networks and utility infrastructure. Infrastructure that doesn't appear in municipal records. Infrastructure that doesn't match any known utility system. Infrastructure that was later removed from updated maps. The Sanborn maps are evidence. They document what existed before the erasure. They show pipe networks connecting buildings across city blocks. They show central facilities in locations now occupied by other structures. They preserve a record that the official archives tried to destroy. The European systems were documented before destruction. In European cities, St. Petersburg, Vienna, Berlin, central water heater systems were more openly documented before being dismantled. Russian archives contain references to Gorodskoye otoplenie, city heating, systems that predated Soviet-era district heating. Austrian records describe Zentralheizwerke, central heating works, that were dismantled during the early 20th century. German engineering journals from the 1890s discuss the replacement of old central systems with modern individual heating. The European evidence proves these systems existed. They weren't fantasy, they weren't speculation. They were documented, discussed, and then destroyed, replaced by systems that extracted rather than provided. Modern district heating rediscovers what was lost. Today, district heating is presented as cutting-edge technology. Cities like Copenhagen, Helsinki, and Stockholm heat large portions of their buildings from central plants. Engineers describe the efficiency gains from centralized heat production. Urban planners promote district heating as sustainable infrastructure. But this isn't new technology. It's rediscovery. The central water heaters provided district heating over a century ago. They provided it more elegantly, more extensively, more equitably than modern systems. They provided it without fossil fuels. We're slowly recreating what the Tartarians built, while pretending they never existed. While ignoring that, we deliberately destroyed their infrastructure, while forgetting that free heat for everyone was once a reality. The implications challenge everything we're taught about progress. We're told that technology advances linearly, from primitive to sophisticated, from less to more, from worse to better. But the central water heaters prove otherwise. We had sophisticated district heating infrastructure. We destroyed it. We replaced it with inferior individual systems. We created artificial scarcity where abundance had existed. We transformed a free public good into a metered commodity. This isn't progress. This is regression. Deliberate regression, implemented by those who profited from the change, hidden by those who wrote the history, maintained by a system that still benefits from the extraction. The utility monopolies are the beneficiaries. Every month, Americans pay heating bills. Gas companies, oil companies, electric companies, billions of dollars annually extracted for a service that was once free. These companies exist because the central water heaters were destroyed. They profit because Tartarian infrastructure was dismantled. They persist because the alternative was erased from history. The utility monopolies aren't natural. They're the product of deliberate destruction, of infrastructure that would have made them unnecessary, of technology that would have provided abundance, of a system that served populations rather than extracting from them. The question now is what we do with this knowledge. The central water heaters are gone. The chambers are sealed. The machines are dismantled. But the principle remains. Centralized heat production is more efficient than distributed. Universal provision is more equitable than metered extraction. Abundance is possible when infrastructure is designed for it. We could rebuild what was destroyed. Modern district heating proves the concept works. Modern energy technology could power it sustainably. Modern engineering could implement it broadly. But we'd have to want to. We'd have to overcome the interests that profit from the current system. We'd have to acknowledge that we once had something better, and that we gave it up, or that it was taken from us. This concludes the documentary, but the investigation has only just begun. A machine the size of a stadium, heating entire cities through pipe networks, providing free heat to every building, destroyed and buried when the new order took control. Something out of place, something out of time. The central water heaters powered Tartarian civilization. They provided abundance to urban populations. They were dismantled to create artificial scarcity. The chambers may still exist beneath our cities. The pipes still run beneath our streets. The evidence still surfaces during construction. But the machines are gone, replaced by meters and bills and extraction, replaced by scarcity where abundance once existed. The central water heaters were buried. But the truth remains, in the unexplained pipes, in the construction records, in the European archives, in the radiators that still wait for heat that will never come. Tartaria heated its cities for free. That had to end, because free provision threatened the extraction economy, because abundance threatened artificial scarcity, because the old system served people and the new system serves profit. The central water heaters are gone, but the memory persists, and memory can become blueprint for a future that looks more like the past they buried than the present they imposed. The construction timeline. Impossibility. The pipe networks beneath old American cities present a construction impossibility. Consider what would have been required to install them. Excavation of trenches throughout an entire urban grid. Fabrication of thousands of miles of pipe in various diameters. Installation of connections to every building. construction of the central facility, an 800-foot diameter chamber excavated from solid earth, pressure testing of the entire system, training of operators and maintenance personnel. All of this would require years of work by thousands of skilled laborers. All of this would generate massive documentation, contracts, permits, payrolls, material orders. All of this would be remembered by the population who witnessed it. Yet no such documentation exists. No one remembers the construction. The pipes simply are. The official explanation is that the pipes were installed incrementally, over decades, by various utility companies. But the pipes don't match utility company records. They predate the utility companies themselves. They connect to buildings in patterns that suggest original construction, not retrofit. The pipes were installed before the official city existed, by someone who left no records, for a system that was already ancient when the current population arrived. The metallurgical evidence. The pipes themselves provide evidence of advanced manufacturing. Samples recovered during construction have been analyzed by researchers. The metal composition doesn't match any standard industrial alloy. The manufacturing technique shows no seams. The pipes appear to be seamless, even in large diameters. The interior surfaces show a coating that resists corrosion and scaling. Modern pipe manufacturing can produce seamless tubes, but only in limited diameters. Large diameter seamless pipe remains expensive and technically challenging. The Tartarian pipes show seamless construction at diameters up to 12 feet, a manufacturing capability we still struggle to match. The corrosion-resistant coating is equally advanced. Modern pipes require regular cleaning and eventually replacement due to internal scaling. The Tartarian pipes, buried for over a century, show minimal internal degradation. Whatever coating was applied, it outperforms anything we manufacture today. The metallurgy proves these weren't primitive pipes laid by frontier settlers. They were advanced infrastructure built by a civilization with manufacturing capabilities beyond our own. The pump systems. Moving heated water through miles of pipe requires pumping. Modern district heating systems use large electric pumps, consuming significant power. The central water heaters had no apparent electrical connection. No steam engines for mechanical pumping. No evidence of animal or human power. Yet the water moved, through thousands of connections, across entire city grids. How? Some researchers suggest convective circulation. Hot water rises, cooled water falls, creating natural flow. But convection alone can't generate the pressure needed for city-scale distribution. Others suggest the thermal energy itself powered circulation. Heat engines embedded in the system, converting temperature differential to mechanical work. This would represent thermodynamic efficiency we haven't achieved. A closed loop, where the heat being distributed also powered its own distribution. No external energy required. Perpetual operation from the thermal gradient itself. The Tartarians may have understood thermodynamics in ways we've forgotten, or in ways we were never allowed to learn. The temperature regulation. Heating a city requires regulation. Different buildings have different needs. Demand changes with weather, time of day, season. Modern district heating uses complex control systems, sensors, valves, computer optimization. The central water heaters apparently achieved this with mechanical systems. Witnesses describe control panels covered in instruments and gauges, but no electrical systems, no computers, mechanical feedback loops, pressure regulators that adjusted flow based on demand, temperature governors that maintained consistent output, automatic balancing across thousands of connections. This isn't impossible with purely mechanical systems, but it requires extraordinary precision in design and manufacture. It requires understanding of control theory that wasn't officially developed until the 20th century. The central water heaters had automatic regulation in the 1800s or earlier, decades before the theory to explain it was developed, proof that Tartarian engineering exceeded what we're taught about the era. The summer operation. Heating systems are needed in winter, but the central water heaters appear to have operated year-round. Why? The pipe networks didn't just distribute heat, they distributed hot water. For bathing, for cleaning, for industrial processes. Every building had access to hot water on demand, a luxury that most modern buildings don't provide. Even today, hot water requires individual water heaters, another metered utility. The Tartarian system provided hot water centrally, heated once, distributed everywhere. Far more efficient than individual heating in every building. Far more equitable. The poorest buildings had the same hot water access as the richest. The summer operation also suggests thermal storage. The massive tanks in the central facility could store heated water for gradual distribution, evening out demand peaks, maintaining pressure and temperature, providing continuous service regardless of load. Thermal storage is considered advanced technology today. The Tartarians had it a century ago, or longer. The worker testimonies. Heinrich Weber wasn't the only one who documented discoveries. Construction workers across America left accounts of encountering underground infrastructure. A steelworker in Pittsburgh, 1903. We broke through into a tunnel during foundation work. Inside were pipes bigger than a man could hug. The foreman brought in officials who told us it was an old coal mine tunnel. But coal mines don't have pipes like that, and coal mines don't have valves and gauges mounted on the walls. A subway excavator in New York, 1912. Under 4th Avenue, we hit a brick chamber with machinery inside. Looked like something for pumping or heating. The bosses came and made us backfill before anyone could document it. Said it was old utility infrastructure. But Con Ed had no record of it. Neither did the water department. A sewer worker in Boston, 1925. The old pipes are everywhere under this city. Pipes that don't appear on any map. Pipes that run between buildings in straight lines, ignoring the streets above. Someone built a whole system down here. Then someone buried it. We just dig around it now. No one asks questions. The testimonies are consistent. Large pipes. Unknown infrastructure. Systematic concealment. Workers knew something was wrong. They documented what they could. Their accounts survived despite official suppression. The European archives. European records provide confirmation that American researchers can't. In St. Petersburg, archives contain technical drawings of vodяные машины, water machines, that were dismantled in the 1890s. The drawings show massive central facilities, pipe networks extending throughout the city, heating capacity for hundreds of thousands of residents. The dismantling was documented. Unlike American destructions, Russian engineers studied the machines before destroying them. They couldn't understand the power source. They couldn't replicate the control systems. They demolished what they couldn't comprehend. In Vienna, engineering journals from the 1880s discuss das alte Heizsystem, the old heating system. Articles debate whether to preserve or replace it. Ultimately, replacement won. The old system was dismantled. Modern boilers were installed. The journals provide dates, locations, technical details. Proof that central heating existed before its official invention. The academic suppression. Modern historians dismiss the central water heater evidence. Misidentified utility infrastructure. Worker exaggeration. Retroactive fantasy based on modern district heating. The dismissals are coordinated. No academic will risk their career investigating. No journal will publish research. No university will fund excavation. The suppression isn't violent. It's social. It's professional. It's economic. The same result as burning archives, but achieved through peer pressure and funding control. The central water heaters can't be studied, because studying them is career suicide. The system protects itself. The modern district heating deception. Modern district heating is presented as Scandinavian innovation. Copenhagen's system, one of the world's largest, is celebrated as cutting edge. But Copenhagen's system serves a fraction of the population the Tartarian system served. It requires constant fuel input, biomass, waste heat, natural gas. It requires extensive pumping power, electrical infrastructure. It requires sophisticated electronic controls, computer systems. The Tartarian systems served larger populations, without apparent fuel input, without external power for pumping, with purely mechanical controls. Modern district heating is inferior to what was destroyed. We're proud of our progress, while burying the evidence that we've regressed. The individual heating extraction. The replacement of central heating with individual systems was the greatest energy extraction scheme in history. Consider what was lost. Efficiency of scale. Central heating wastes less energy than millions of individual units. Maintenance concentration. One system to maintain versus millions. Universal access. Everyone received heat regardless of ability to pay. Consider what was gained by the extractors. Fuel sales to millions of individual buildings. Equipment sales for boilers, furnaces, water heaters. Maintenance services for distributed systems. Monthly billing infrastructure. Shut-off capability for non-payment. The transition from central to individual heating created an industry, an extraction industry, an industry that profits from inefficiency, an industry that profits from scarcity, an industry that wouldn't exist if the central water heaters still operated. The blueprint for restoration. The central water heaters are gone, but the principle can be restored. Modern district heating proves centralized heat production works. Geothermal energy could provide the fuel-free power source. Modern pipe materials could replicate the distribution networks. Smart controls could achieve the automatic regulation the Tartarians accomplished mechanically. The technology exists. The economics favor it. Central systems are more efficient. The environmental case is clear. Less fuel burned overall. What's missing is political will. The utility companies that profit from individual heating resist change. The fossil fuel companies that sell heating fuel resist change. The financial interests that benefit from extraction resist change. Restoration requires overcoming these interests. It requires remembering that alternatives existed. It requires demanding that abundance replace artificial scarcity. The pipes, beneath your feet. If you live in an old American city, the Tartarian pipes may be beneath you. Not connected, not operational, but present. Evidence of what once was. During building renovation, ask about the pipes they encounter. During street construction, observe what's exposed. During utility work, question infrastructure that doesn't match records. The evidence is still being uncovered. Construction workers still find unexplained pipes. Building owners still discover mysterious basement connections. The system is buried but not gone. Documented by those willing to look. Preserved by the difficulty of removing it. The central water heaters were dismantled, but their circulatory system remains, cold now, disconnected, but still testifying to what was taken. This concludes the documentary, but the investigation has only just begun. A machine the size of a stadium, heating entire cities through pipe networks, providing free heat to every building, destroyed and buried when the new order took control. Something out of place, something out of time. The central water heaters powered Tartarian civilization. They provided abundance to urban populations. They were dismantled to create artificial scarcity. The chambers may still exist beneath our cities. The pipes still run beneath our streets. The evidence still surfaces during construction. But the machines are gone, replaced by meters and bills and extraction, replaced by scarcity where abundance once existed. The central water heaters were buried, but the truth remains. In the unexplained pipes, in the construction records, in the European archives, in the radiators that still wait for heat that will never come. Tartaria heated its cities for free. That had to end. Because free provision threatened the extraction economy. Because abundance threatened artificial scarcity. Because the old system served people, and the new system serves profit. The central water heaters are gone. but the memory persists, and memory can become blueprint for a future that looks more like the past they buried than the present they imposed. This documentary presents historical analysis and alternative interpretation for educational discussion. The claims regarding Tartarian infrastructure and central water heaters represent perspectives outside mainstream historical consensus. Examination of construction records and municipal archives is encouraged. Asterisk.